you so much
Welcome.
for having me. This is amazing.
Thank you.
I love this house. For months, I've been having visions, dreams, and feelings like I was going to meet Margaret Cho and needed to talk to her. I definitely have been having some very vivid dreams and very vivid visions of a comedian named Margaret Cho, who I do feel I'm meant to meet. I don't know if she's into this kind of thing necessarily. I don't know, the extent of her level of openness or interest or how that will align, but for sure, odd enough, I've been having lots of specific images catered for her. Wow, gorgeous artwork.
Thank you.
Oh, hello, friend.
She likes
What a sweetie.
I definitely believe in all kinds of different things on that sort of the paranormal spectrum, from psychics to mediums to empaths, or all these things. I think have a lot of information for the rest of us on Earth.
Today, before we start the reading, I'd like to kind of explain how I do what I do. I work as a clairvoyant, so I see information. I always kind of describe it as like a puzzle. So I get the puzzle pieces and we just kind of place them depending on where they are pertinent to your personal life and within family. So as far as from the medium aspect, do you have any objects you'd be curious about me holding
I have a few different objects.
Great.
I'm actually wearing some of them now. These are just items of jewelry from my family.
Okay.
So these are some older things.
Okay.
And then this too.
Great. Awesome. So we'll see whatever comes through. See what we can feel. Okay, so let me see how to kind of describe this. Have you, okay. Putting jewelry in a sock. So give me one
Oh
second.
yeah, that was always hiding their jewelry because of like they would hide their jewelry in socks and then also put it in like a coffee can.
That is so random. I'm literally seeing jewelry being put in a sock.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, interesting. So, yeah.
Tyler actually saw my family, which this jewelry has been placed in socks and hidden in coffee cans all over the place. So, and for several generations.
So as I'm coming through, I have an older woman that's popping in. I have a woman who's coming through almost in the way that I would describe as like an aunt kind of a figure. Mm-hmm. So do you have a deceased
Yes,
aunt?
yes,
Because
yes.
I'm definitely feeling like I'm making that kind of connection. It doesn't feel like mom to me as much as kind of like the aunt connection. There's family on that end that I'm going to that's acknowledging that they feel like they did not make it here. I would say in the way that this comes through, there is an interesting reference to Washington. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you have family connections to Washington or why she's bringing me to the Washington kind of a connection, but there's a reference. It would be not DC, it would be, when she's coming through, I don't think she was afraid to pass in the moment that she did, because I think that honestly, she knew that there was a very strong possibility that I don't feel like I'm gonna get where I'm going. I feel kind of in and out is the way that I would describe it.
The person that you're seeing is my aunt. We called her Kunimo, and I think this is most of that is her jewelry.
Oh, okay.
And she's died, but she was desperate to go back to Korea to die, and she actually died on a plane on the way to Korea. She died over Seattle, so
wow.
that's where it was. So.
Okay.
And then she was somebody, I knew that I was her favorite, and
Right.
she was such a warm and alive person. She was just beautiful, but it was very, the circumstances of her death really were like, she didn't make it there.
Right.
He really touched on my aunt. She made me feel so loved and so just buoyed me up always. And so I miss that. And so I love having her around, and I love that he saw her.
When she comes through, she has a very personal connection to basically feeling like, in her eyes, you represent an empowerment being a woman. And that's something that on her end, she admires deeply. And I feel like through you opening up and through you doing these amazing things and helping people, she herself feels like she's living vicariously through that. Because culturally, at different times, different aspects, and for you, she feels like through you being yourself, that gives her the most sense of fulfillment in being able to kind of explore that with you. So every single step of the way, she definitely is there.
That's
having
wonderful.
That yeah, so she's absolutely lovely. But I am actually interestingly referencing to actually writing, odd enough. Have you ever thought about writing a book?
Oh yes, I'm doing that.
Oh, cool.
So that's
Okay,
right, yes.
Cool. Yeah, because that looks good. I see that kind of progressing. It looks as though we'll go through about a little bit of a 2-month delay. Don't worry when that happens. And then I see it getting kickstarted and really taking off. And that looks like that does really well.
Yeah.
So that's very cool.
That's great. He saw me writing a book, and that's actually true. I just submitted the proposal, and he said there would be a 2-month delay, which there was, which is so randomly accurate. You know, that's really inspiring when somebody can sort of pinpoint it like exactly. And it's great to know that it's going to be very successful.
And then overall finances are looking amazing. I really see that progressing. You are going to be able to market and franchise yourself, involving some homeopathic aspects, so I would put it, as well as like natural alternatives. Natural healing is
Okay.
talking about weed.
That's good.
Yeah.
Oh, good. That's really, because I'm starting that business, so that's great.
Okay.
That's great to know.
Good to keep in mind. I love it. As far as that goes in the franchising, that looks awesome, successful, and more will come from that.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
That's really cool.
Also interesting, and this is going to sound pretty ridiculous. A couple weeks ago, I was just hanging out, and I heard Robin Williams come through. And he acknowledged that he was going to come through at some point. And so it's interesting because throughout this, I've always had like a weird kind of a connection mentally with you and him. Like I've placed them together odd enough. But when he did come through, it was very brief, and it was almost like he was going to try to come through again. How close of a relationship did you have to him, or did you know him?
I knew him, and he was somebody that I saw a lot when I was much younger. I met him when I was a child, and then he did comedy at this comedy club that I lived across the street from.
Right.
So he was very famous at that point, and you know, his death was really, I think, hard for the entire comedy community. I knew him as most people kind of knew him, but then I knew him a little personally, and I think that he was also kind of unknowable.
Sure.
That he was very difficult to connect with on a personal level because he was very shy. He was a bit embarrassed by his own fame and his own largesse, because people would freak out when they'd see him. For me personally, what Robin Williams always did, there was like tough lessons because he would always bump me at the comedy club, so I would have to go on after him, and that's how I learned how to do comedy, is bombing after him for my entire childhood. I was really a child doing comedy, but I had to go on after him. It was so terrible. I learned incredibly well from him, so I think that was the greatest gift. He's somebody that I still have a lot of pain about, you know, a lot of suffering and sadness about, because I don't really, it's sort of not really resolvable.
Right, yeah, no, understandably. So the way I would kind of put this is that with the Robin connection coming through so strongly, the way that I would really put this is that when he comes through, for one, he feels like he inspired everybody that he was around. But it's interesting because he himself felt inspired by the people that he got to work with as well. And you're one of those people. So there's absolutely that connection. When he comes through, I don't get any negativity. I feel completely at peace. I feel completely fine. But I think in the way that this comes across is that he was aware of a quality of life that he knew was likely to lead towards the future and didn't want to have to suffer. So the way that I would put this is he doesn't so much reference to like, you know, a big chemical imbalance as much as I feel like I have another health issue that I just don't want to have to suffer through. And that's the way that that comes through. But just please know that he's very much so aware of, you know, your comedy and all the amazing things you're doing, and that just as he inspired you, you inspired him.
I love that. That's really, really nice. Thank you.
Absolutely.
It really felt so authentic too, that he really was connecting to Robin Williams, and that I really could sense it just from his heart. So that was a really healing thing for me, just to hear that he is at peace now, and that's really amazing. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
So wonderful. It was really amazing. I mean, he's just such a beautiful person. Like, it's something so gentle and clear about what he sees, and he's got a tremendous gift. I think it's so amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So lovely. I think the theme of Margaret's reading, when it comes to her family, was really heavily focused on her basically taking the torch and continuing it. So in a big way, her family members, who in many ways were very different from her, but loved her nonetheless, reference to her continuation and her empowerment as she continued her career and her personal life. Hello.
Hello. So how was the reading earlier?
It was insane.
Yeah?
So you know who Margaret Cho is, obviously.
Yeah.
The comedian.
The one that you knew you were going to read?
Yeah.
Tell me what happened.
Absolutely nuts. So I ended up, she invited me in, and we went into the reading. And it was actually, it was really a very profound reading. I brought through a lot of her family members. But literally the weirdest part of this entire reading was that as I was sitting there, I could feel Robin Williams coming through. Robin Williams.
Yeah.
Who I've been saying that I've been connecting to.
Yes.
Legitimately. He came through super strongly, and it ends up that they knew each other, and he would basically mentor her in a really unique way. And what was so profound about it was that when he came through, he acknowledged that, he said he knew that he was going to physically suffer from something, and that he was going to go through a very much so more referencing to a condition or an illness that would take a toll physically and mentally. He acknowledged that he basically ended his life because he didn't want to suffer in the future. I think it was very emotional for her, but I think on some level it helped provide a bit of an answer.
Yeah, which is what you always want. That's all you ever want for people, is to provide that comfort or an answer. You've been hanging out with Robin Williams. And only you would get to feel his energy. What's he like? What's his energy like?
I'm going to tear up talking about it, but legitimately, it was really huge. I mean, he the way it came across was that he was such a selfless figure.
Yeah.
And
you're getting choked up.
Oh no, not. I mean, it was just a very, very big message, because this was someone who I looked up to, and to see him come through and reference his passing was really, tough, because obviously everyone thought that it was because of various reasons. And then when he came through, he acknowledged that it wasn't, and that he knew more than I think we know. And I think that was the single contributor to his passing. So.
Aww.
Yeah.
I never see you.
No, it was good. I'm glad I was able to make that connection. So.
Oh my God.
It's awesome.